Hello and welcome to a brand new Arseblog Arsecast right here on arseblog.com. How are you? Hope you're well. Welcome to another podcast. Most of this was recorded last night in the aftermath of the 1-0 win over Napoli. Which gives us a Europa League semi-final against Valencia. Myself and Andrew Allen had a good chat about the game, and then we did some questions that we took from the Arseblog members on Patreon, the Discord chat server. We took some questions from there and dealt with a few of those. So most of it was recorded last night. I'm sitting here this morning finding it a little bit weird recording an Arsecast regular first thing in the morning. I don't know. I associate this recording with afternoon and evening, and I'm sitting here doing it in the morning. So that's a little bit strange. And also a little bit strange was what happened last night. While we were recording, just as I started recording, it was brought to my attention that the next door neighbor's roof was on fire. Seriously, he has this in his back garden. He's got this kind of cabana type thing. I don't know. I don't know how you call it. It looks like it's sort of thatched, like a Hawaiian cabana thing where there's a little bar and everything. It's very cool. But I thought that had caught fire somehow. Actually, what had happened was it was the back of his house, and I think it could have been a light or something, an electrical fault. But basically, the back of his house was going on fire, and the people there didn't seem particularly capable of doing anything about it. So I managed to get a couple of buckets of water and throw it over the wall and put the fire out. But it's quite surreal. Hang on, I'll just put this fire out, then come back upstairs and do a podcast. It was that kind of a thing. But I guess it's a reminder that I've got to get a fire extinguisher in this house, and a reminder for next door that they need to get a fire extinguisher too. Oh, strange business. Anyway, I might just leave the waffle here for now, and let's go into the podcast, chat with Andrew about the game last night and lots more besides. So here, let's do it. Right, joining me now on the Arsecast to discuss our impressive, I think, 1-0 win over Napoli in the Europa League, which puts us into the Europa League semi-finals. Andrew Allen, good evening to you.
Good evening.
We are recording, I guess, maybe half an hour after the final whistle, so these are measured, considered thoughts based on what we've seen. But can we talk a little bit about what you thought was going to happen tonight? We've been chatting offline, on WhatsApp or Gmail chat or whatever it was, and it would be fair to say you weren't that confident about our chances of going through. You were perhaps envisaging things going quite wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I just slightly haunted by previous occasions where we've not even just completely messed it up, but just kind of frightened me. I kept thinking back to that Villarreal semi-final years ago when all we had to do was trying to get through the game, and then we gave away that penalty in the last second, and I know we came through it. But
Andrew, can you just hang on 1 second, because my neighbour's roof is on fire.
What?
I swear to God, I'm just looking out the back window.
Okay.
He's got like a little cabana thing out the back, and it's on fire, so I better just go tell him.
Yeah,
so
do it.
Bear with me. Hi, I'm back.
Hello.
Just for people, because I'm going to leave this in the podcast, apart from like the big gap of 5.5 minutes when I've been out putting out a fire on my neighbor's roof. The corner of his roof, it's got like a flat roof, with the kind of felt or whatever type of material is on it. Yeah. But it was on fire, and there was wiring, and then someone was trying to just throw a bucket of water on it from underneath it, and I was able to get up on the wall beside us and throw out a couple of buckets of water on it to put it out. But Jesus Christ, it was on fire.
That's an unusual. Well, it's an unusual in any situation.
It is. Anyway, as far as I can tell, the house is all right now. So
Okay.
there you go. I very slightly lost my train of thought here. We were talking about your perhaps
Less than optimistic pre-game.
That's exactly it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. No, I wasn't feeling overly optimistic. It has to be said. I mean, I guess you look at our away form this season. You look at the way we've occasionally played away from home in big games in recent years, and basically all I wanted was for us not to shit the bed, and that really meant that we had to start well. And the preparation seemed to go well from the fact that he picked an attacking team from the get-go. I was so pleased to see that he kind of set the marker like that.
What did you make of the fact that he played the two strikers? I wasn't necessarily expecting that, but in hindsight, when I saw the team, I thought, okay, I can see what he's doing here. He's using his two forwards. He's got Ramsey in behind. He's got Torreira and Xhaka in midfield to kind of pull the strings a bit, and then we've got our wing backs to get forward and do what we want the wing backs to do. I thought we started pretty brightly. Napoli came back into it, and I'll talk to you in a moment about some of the performances and the passing numbers in particular, which are bizarre. When I looked at them doing the player ratings for Arseblog News, I thought maybe I'd looked in the Stat Zone app and it was only 10 minutes into the game, but it was a really bright start from us, and the away goal, which Alexandre Lacazette scored, after that, I think it pretty much killed the game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that first goal was always going to be absolutely vital, and if we got it, I guess it was kind of game, set, and match. And I thought we just did so well to kind of marshal all the way through the game. I mean, we were helped by the fact that their finishing was absolutely terrible. I mean, it was almost like make-believe. It was so bad, some of their finishing, especially by the end. They were literally just hacking the ball into row Z. But look, we took that chance brilliantly, and I expected Lacazette to start. I just thought he might be up front on his own. I thought he might put Iwobi on the left instead of having Aubameyang on the pitch. But you look at the way the game played out, and Ramsey pushed so far forward from the start. I mean, he was really pressing so high. Leaving quite a big gap, I guess, between him and Xhaka and Torreira. But those two also started to push higher and higher, and we were winning so many balls up the front end of the pitch in the first 15 minutes. You were like, oh my God, if we can keep this up, we're actually onto something.
Yeah, you make a good point about Ramsey and how high he played up, and very interestingly, our highest pass combination in the entire game was Kolasinac to Ramsey, and Ramsey only lasted half an hour, which tells you a little bit about how the rest of the game went, but also, where Ramsey was playing and what he was trying to do in those areas of the pitch.
Yeah, I mean, the weird thing is actually I wasn't frustrated, maybe. Frustrated is the wrong word, but the quality of the passing in the final third and the first 15, 20 minutes didn't necessarily match the kind of intensity of the pressing. Like, we were getting the ball, but then we were kind of like the ball was sort of bouncing off us a little bit, particularly Lacazette. I felt like he couldn't quite get the ball under control. The final pass wasn't always there. We didn't really create any kind of obviously clear opportunities. But the fact was we were playing the game in their, in and around their box, which just makes such a massive difference when you start a game like that. You know that if an early goal goes against you, the whole mood just completely changes. Yeah.
Just to reiterate this passing thing, Kolasinac was involved in our 4 of our 5 best pass combinations. Kolasinac to Ramsey 9 times, Kolasinac to Lacazette 7 times, Kolasinac to Aubameyang 6 times, Kolasinac to Iwobi 5 times. And amazingly, Kolasinac, for a guy who's very often way down the list when it comes to the passing numbers, he was the guy who made more passes than anyone else. And just to sort of highlight what I was talking about when I was doing the player ratings, I had a look at Koscielny's passes and Socrates. And these are centre-halves who are really comfortable on the ball. They'll easily do 50, 60, 70 passes in some games. Koscielny, I have to go back here just to make sure I'm absolutely right about this, go into the individual player stats. Koscielny made 7 successful passes in the entire game.
What?
7 successful passes in the entire game. Just to put that in context, he made 8 clearances. So he made more clearances than he made successful passes in the game. Socrates made 10 passes in the entire game. I think he made something like 7 or 8 clearances as well. So it really illustrates what way the game played out, I think. It wasn't that we had to dominate possession. We didn't have a lot of possession, particularly in the second half, because as soon as we scored the goal, it was basically, well, they have to score 4 times. Let's just let them get on with it, and most of what they did was pretty terrible. So it wasn't the sort of game where we had to have the ball, and it wasn't the sort of game where we wanted the ball, but I thought that was remarkable, for Koscielny, who I thought was great in terms of what he did defensively. He made his tackles, his clearances, interceptions and blocks. He read the game very well, but with the ball at his feet, he didn't do an awful lot. He didn't need to do an awful lot. I mean, I think there was one point in the second half where he just looked up, didn't see anything, and just clumped it forward with like his left foot, It's just, here you go, have it back, see what you can do with that.
Yeah, it's kind of, last night we saw, was it Wanyama just hacking the ball out with about 2-3 minutes to go, and it kind of, there were moments in the game today where I was just like, you can see they're thinking the same thing, just get it as far away as possible. Genuinely, I thought that was probably one of the most mature performances I've seen from an Arsenal team in quite some time.
Were you maybe a little bit surprised at how poor Napoli were? Because I have to say, over the course of 2 legs, I am a little bit, and I expected more from them. Certainly in this game, I expected a bit more intensity. When we scored the goal, obviously it had a big impact on their mentality, because they knew they were going to have to score 4 times, and the way they were playing, they couldn't hit a cow's arse with a banjo if they played until next week. So you can understand why they played. They looked a little bit kind of they're going through the motions. But when we drew Napoli, a lot of people were like, "Uh-oh, shit! We're going to get found out here." And from what we've seen over the course of the 2 legs, is that we're a far better side than Napoli. In my opinion, anyway, based on what we've seen on the pitch and the performances.
Yeah, I don't doubt that at all. I think when we played them 6 years ago, or 5-6 years ago, when they had Higuain up front and they had Hamsik in the team, they struck me as a kind of like 2 players who were kind of more noteworthy kind of pinnacles of all of their play. Whereas I looked at what they had today, and Milic, although I know he's quite a good player and he scored a fair few goals for them, he doesn't look a sort of shadow of Higuain in his pomp. Insigne just looks,
he's tiny, isn't he?
He's so small. The Arsenal players kind of must have looked at that and gone, look, we've had Troy Deeney last week, I think we can deal with you.
Yeah, I was looking at the teams lining up, and they would do the camera across and you could see all the Arsenal players standing there, and then I was going, who's the fucking mascot? With the captain's armband. He literally looked he was about a foot smaller than the goalkeeper.
Yeah, I made a point in the match report, but I'm almost certain that whatever was said between him and Ancelotti will be making big news over there kind of tomorrow. For him the captain to be taken off and then to have a strop like that, it's going to cause issues. But he's just a horrible little gobshite, Insigne. He's not. he's not all that. No,
I would agree. I agree. And he was somebody who, I think, if they were going to have a chance, he was going to have to, he was going to have to really shine. And all he did really was, for 2 games was run offside and then get substituted and kick the ball away. Kicking the ball away was the highlight of his night, apart from standing there looking like a grumpy little fucker on the touchline after he got taken off. So let's talk about the goal. Alexandre Lacazette with a free kick. I'm not sure I was expecting him to do that. I think it looks a very good goal. I do have a lot of time for it. I have a lot of time for him stepping up on the big stage and making a big contribution like that. I think it's hugely important, and we've touched on just how crucial that goal was for the way the rest of the game played out. But, I think there's an element of the goalkeeper not covering himself in glory here as well.
Yeah, I think the replay showed he took a kind of step to the right and then kind of left himself flat-footed and couldn't go back left, which is, something that the whole goalkeeper in the FA Cup final did, right? When Cazorla can sort of curled it over him. But, that split second can make all the difference when you're a keeper and you're facing a decent effort. And it definitely, look, it was a great strike. It was actually further out when I looked at the replay, further out than I realised it was. I thought initially it was kind of sort of edge of the box, but it's a good sort of 10 yards outside the box.
Yeah.
But he strikes the ball really nicely, Lacazette. You know, I think I look at that team and I think sometimes when Xhaka steps up, it's kind of more hope than expectation, as it were, when he takes our free kicks. And, you know, Aubameyang doesn't necessarily strike the ball quite as nicely. And, you know, I think actually he's probably the most kind of natural kind of player we have, particularly for curling efforts like that.
Yeah.
And he said after the game, actually, that he'd been practicing and he's got the trust of all of his teammates. So I wasn't overly surprised that it was him over Xhaka to take it. But it was dead centre, so it could have been either of them. Yeah.
True. You know, the goalkeeper, you know, it went in the side that he was supposed to be covering. He took a step because I assume he thought Lacazette was gonna put it over the wall, and he does look a little bit stupid. But, you know, quality strike on target. And if you do that, you've got a chance. So a really big goal. I mean, I think in general there were elements of his game that I looked at him and thought, you know, is he quite there? Is he 100%? Is he a little bit under the weather? You know, you think about last season when we had similar-ish kind of performances from him, and then all of a sudden we discovered he had a knee injury, and he'd been carrying something. So I worry a little bit about that from that point of view. You know, he was taken off after about an hour. He didn't look necessarily that happy. He never does, you know, particularly look happy when he's taken off, and nor should he. But I wonder, are we kind of protecting him a little bit because he didn't play against Watford on Monday night, and there might have been other reasons for that, but it feels like we might just be nursing him through something.
Yeah, quite possibly. I mean, I think what's been really interesting in the kind of post-Wenger era is watching Unai Emery make very tactical decisions during the game, whether that be tactical because of the way a game's playing out or just, you know, for the individual player. Because I thought actually, you know, knowing that Xhaka was on a booking, and if he got another booking, he'd miss a semi-final. That there was a very sensible decision to make in a game that was won. But it's not the type of decision I think Arsene Wenger would have made. You know, Arsene was always quite prone to sort of just leaving all of his best players and hoping for the best in occasions. And I think Unai's kind of a bit more, I think he does start looking to the next game and the next game and the next game. I mean, they always say we focus on the 90 minutes, blah, blah, blah. But I do think he and the medical team actually over the last few weeks have done really well at trying to balance who's playing what games and when. And they do seem to have a plan which is more 2-3 games in advance, not just one. So I've been impressed by that. It seems to be playing off. I mean, obviously the Ramsey injury, which I'm sure we'll get on to, was a bit of a downer. But by and large, at this time of the season, for us to have most of our players fit, I know we've got a few long-term ones, but we haven't really had any new injuries coming up at this point, except for this new one. It's been good. You know, it's been a positive.
It has. Let's talk Ramsey then, because you know, we know that in recent weeks he's been playing a lot. We know that, what game was it? It was the Everton game, wasn't it? Where he didn't start and everyone was going mad that he didn't start because, well, you know, you felt like we needed him when you were fielding a midfield of Guendouzi and El Neni away from home. You know, it's easy to pine for better, and Aaron Ramsey is obviously that. Maybe we're seeing there was method in that particular madness. He did say he wasn't able to do 90 minutes. He played against Watford the other night. And here he is again in an important game where we needed him. And you can understand why he was picked. But, you know, maybe it's just that thing with Aaron, that when he plays a bit too much and when he gets a little bit too much into that red zone, some kind of muscular strain is inevitable.
Yeah, and then this is coming off the back of a season when he's not played nearly as much football as last year. So, I mean, it must be incredibly frustrating for him, because honestly, that looks like it could potentially be sort of an 8-week injury, right? I mean, in normal circumstances, you might say that's your season over and done and dusted. I think in the circumstances, given that, you know, there's potentially a final on the horizon, that could extend the season out into nearly June, isn't it? I mean, the final's really late in May, a good couple of weeks after the Premier League season. He'll be going through absolutely desperate, you know, treatment, hoping that he can somehow have a farewell either at the Emirates or in Baku. He's not going to want this to be his last game for Arsenal, because you know, he's made such a massive contribution to the club, and to not get the goodbye that he definitely deserves would be a real shame.
It would. if it's just a mild hamstring strain, we are looking at 3 weeks. Regularly that's what happens, and we're now the 18th of April. Our final league game is the the 4th of May. No, it's not. It's the 12th of May. So, he could get back for that game against Burnley. That's not at the Emirates. 4th of May against Brighton, not impossible, for him to play a game there. But, we've got a Europa League semi-final now as well. There's the 2nd of May and the 9th of May, at home first to Valencia, then away in Valencia on the 9th of May. So, he could be looking at that game certainly as one to make his comeback in if he is out for just 3 weeks. If it's maybe a bit more serious and we do get through against Valencia, there is the possibility, of course, that the final on the 29th of May could be his final game for us. Just in terms of what Emery did on the night, were you surprised in any way that he put on Mkhitaryan? Because it felt a bit more like for like. I mean, the other option, I think, was Mesut Ozil, wasn't it? And if the game plan is to play with somebody like Ramsey in that position, then Mkhitaryan is a bit more like him in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't really at all surprised that he went for Mickey. I think he quite likes that Mickey's a bit of a dribbler. He carries the ball, and in a game like that, you sometimes need people to kind of burst out of a tackle. And I think you look back to the Spurs game away at Wembley, where he played really well in that kind of environment. I think that's probably what set him up. The thing with Mkhitaryan is he's just so ridiculously inconsistent. He's an incredibly frustrating player to watch, and I can understand why Manchester United fans kind of weren't that fussed about him leaving in the end, because you genuinely never know what you're going to get with him. Even
in the course of 90 minutes, he created that fantastic chance for Aubameyang, which I think Aubameyang should have scored. It was right there for him. I do think that the keeper made a brilliant save. The way he came out and spread himself. I think Aubameyang made a decision and the keeper read it and made a really, really good save. But it was a perfect pass from Mkhitaryan. And then there are other moments in the game where he can't hang on to the ball or he can't give the right pass. But, there were moments late on, I think, when he filled in for Maitland-Niles. So just in terms of what he did, I think he did most things well. But yeah, the inconsistency isn't just, from one game to the next. It can be in one half to another,
Yeah. I mean, he strikes me as being something of a confidence player. He doesn't, like players we've had in the past, he kind of tends to sort of drop his head and his shoulders a little bit if things aren't going well. But, he can take heart from his performance tonight. I mean, I genuinely feel like he missed a couple of real sitters against Watford on Monday. So, hopefully he's put that behind him and he can continue this into the next game, because it's going to be vital that we win again on Sunday now.
Yes, it is. All in all, though, I think we should be talking about a very controlled, professional, polished kind of Arsenal performance, even if we were quite happy, I think, weren't we, in the final half an hour in particular, to sit very deep and let Napoli have it, because they never really looked that threatening. We made a lot of tackles, a lot of clearances. We won headers from set pieces. I know they had a couple of chances, but, there was nothing that you would say was particularly gilt-edged in that second half. There was one, wasn't there, where it went through and I think it hit Milik on his hind leg and bounced away. Yeah. And there was the one off Monreal, which went straight at Czech. But, that's not really a Napoli chance. We have this ability, I think, under Emery, when we do go ahead in these big games, we have an ability to be able to see out those games and see out those results.
Well, look, I mean, to take a clean sheet away from home against a team that has a tremendous home record, no matter what the circumstances, is something that we can take huge confidence from. To have that off the back of another clean sheet away from home on Monday, and knowing that we have big games against Wolves and Leicester coming up, I mean, it's a huge thing to take away. And to be able to believe as a unit that you can implement a game plan as we did this evening is so important. So important. I think there's real belief to take from this two legs. I feel like we've kind of matured. I feel like Emery's kind of, can rightly earn himself some plaudits off the back of how he's kind of traversed these two games. Genuinely, I mean, really just mature performances all over the pitch. I just wanted to say a couple of words about Ainsley Maitland-Niles, who I thought was tremendous.
Yeah.
A guy who's playing, I guess, continues to be out of position on that right wing back position, but then maybe it isn't out of position anymore because he's really making it his own. And like his dual ability, his ability in the tackle is great. He's seems to be developing more kind of gumption when he's going forward. He likes to charge down the wing, and I think actually in the first 5-10 minutes he had one effort like that where he stole the ball and burst down to the byline, which I was just like, that's exactly what we need tonight. So good on him, and good on the defence. I think it was really interesting that he obviously went with Monreal over Mustafi in the circumstances.
I do wonder if Sunday played a part in that. I think he needs some fresh legs on Sunday. He might look at Mustafi, as a player who can play against Crystal Palace. I think, he would have looked at this game on paper and said, I need Koscielny, I need Socrates. Socrates can't play on Sunday anyway. As a back three, I think you can very easily shift that back three if you bring Mustafi into it. For example, in place of Monreal, Mustafi can play on the right, Socrates in the middle, Koscielny on the left. Don't think it disrupts it that much, but I think he was sort of looking ahead to Sunday. But also, I do think that that's probably the best threesome that we have anyway. And for a big game like this, he's picked it. And just when we talk about our defence, and it has been an issue this season, there's no question. The Everton thing is still a bit fresh in the memory, but since we lost to Rennes 3-1 with 10 men, we've played 7 games, we've won 6 of them. The only goal we've conceded was against Everton. So it's 6 clean sheets out of 7 games.
Yeah, I mean, look, that's a turnaround, right? I mean, that's amazing at this time of the season for us to be able to kind of, pinpoint a problem and just go, we're going to fix it, and then start working on it. I mean, we needed it. I mean, Jesus, our defensive record earlier in the season was ridiculous. It felt like pretty much any team at any moment would go and score against us. So, timely.
Timely indeed. Let's hope they can keep it up. What we're going to do now is we're going to take a little bit of a break here. I'm just going to check that nothing else is on fire, and then we're going to come back. We're going to take some questions from the Arseblog Patreon Discord server. Some of the guys on there. If you're an Arseblog member on Patreon, you get to ask the questions. They've asked a few questions. We'll go through some of those in part 2 right after this little break. We're back after that little break. I don't know if anything happened in that little break or not. Maybe it was just silence. Maybe just a moment of silence is all we need to reflect on whatever. We can reflect on why Nacho Monreal went off the pitch in that second half. I mean, I can only think that he needed to have a poo. That would appear to be what Twitter is saying. That's got to be the only reason a footballer leaves the pitch in the middle of a game, because he's got his stomach upset and he needs to go and just make sure he doesn't, do a Gary Lineker on the pitch. Can you imagine though, if Arsenal had conceded and he came back on and he kind of had to tell everyone? I guess they would have known, kind of beforehand, I've got a dicky stomach here. There's every possibility I might have to go off and, have a number 2. I mean, maybe there's another. I don't know. Maybe there's another reason, but I can't think about it. If you're going to vomit, you just vomit. Yeah, of course. Players vomit on the pitch. It'd be a very bold player. He took a shit on the pitch. Yeah, Gary Lineker. At least he sat down. Well. Okay, I'm going to go through some questions here very quickly. Chifinho says, how depressing was tonight's result? Alternative question, how amazing was tonight's result? Delete as appropriate because he left that before the game. So it was amazing. Chifinho, thank you there. This one comes, they're hard to read the names here. I think it's Boff, B-O-F-H, says, how far have we come since the end of last season? What surprised you this season the most, good or bad? What's been the biggest surprise for you? Well, honestly, I think the biggest surprise is the fact that we are
basically still competing on two fronts for a place in the Champions League, and there's really not that much of the season left. I thought maybe one, maybe the other, but for us to be in really strong positions going for both in the league and also in this competition, I think that's actually really, really impressive. I mean, I know that this was the aim that was set out by the club for Emery, but I thought we might struggle. And I know we started well. You know, we had that 22 game run unbeaten streak at one point, but then we really wobbled. And I thought that in the league in particular, that the other teams around us might, you know, open up a bit of a gap. But we've kind of clung on in there. And it's not like we're behind them. We're actually kind of right in the mix at the moment. So, I mean, that's great, really.
I actually think that not necessarily our ability to cope without Hector Bellerin, Rob Holding and Danny Welbeck, but the fact that we've kind of found solutions. I think that's what surprised me, because if you were to take those players away from another manager in the league, maybe they wouldn't do as well. And when you consider how much is going on with Emery in his first season in England and what a job he's come into, and, you know, to take over from someone like Arsene Wenger and how difficult that is. And, you know, we weren't necessarily in the best shape when Arsene left. So I think, you know, to be here in, what have we got, 5 games left in the Premier League, is it? 1, 2, 3, 4? 5, yeah. You know, to be in the top 4 with every possibility of staying there. And here we are into the semi-final of a European competition with a manager who knows how to go the distance in this particular competition. I think that's pleasantly surprising. I don't think there's been anything madly out of the ordinary. Oh, wow, I can't believe that. Kind of surprising. Maybe Koscielny, you could say, is a surprise.
I mean, his return has been unbelievable, really. I mean, his form is second to none. I mean, you want him first name on the team sheet every week at the moment.
Yeah.
I mean, the only other thing I'd say, not surprising, it's just we're getting used to the new ways of doing things. I guess there were some things that became very, very, very predictable. And I was worried, I guess, with some of our away form that we were becoming lamentably predictable in the way that we kept fluffing things up. But we seem to have come out the other side of it in the last couple of games. So that's about it.
Here is a question from Jat307 who says, in last night's Champions League match, VAR made Spurs happy twice. Add this to Arsenal using Jens to red in the Champions League final. The years have only been drawn in knockouts against Barcelona and Bayern Munich at their individual peaks, and it's clear that Gunnar should be booing the Champions League anthem rather than the spoiled plastic Man City fans, except we aren't classless. My question is, if Liverpool versus Spurs in Madrid in late May is happening, what size meteor do we root for?
I mean, apparently, I was reading the other day that Elon Musk is joining forces with NASA to kind of work on some meteor diverting technology or something, and it would require quite a big meteor to cause some damage. But yeah, I don't know. Pretty
really
big.
I mean, has he not got better things to do?
Well, who knows? It's basically the plot to that Armageddon movie.
Yeah, Armageddon, exactly. Yeah, just send up. What were they, miners or something? I can't remember. They were drillers or something.
Oil rig workers, I believe.
Yeah, that's how you do it. Just send them up there. They'll figure it out. But we've got a number of questions along the lines of this one, which comes from Ranbo. Would you rather Spurs win the Champions League, and he's got pain emoji, and Arsenal finish third and win the Europa League, or Spurs lose to Ajax and Arsenal finish 6th and trophyless? I mean, I have to say, I was thinking about this.
I'm going to take the trophy and I'm just going to go on holiday.
No, really? Really? Because I was thinking about this. I was thinking, how much could I bear for it not to happen? For that not to happen.
It's horrible, isn't it?
Like, it makes me really uneasy. You know, I know deep down that the likelihood of it is slim, but it still makes me really, really, really uneasy. And the VAR stuff the other night didn't help my heart at all. There
is a bit of me that kind of feels like a really genuinely painful defeat in the final would be a hilarious way to sign off football for the summer. and we could all enjoy that for months and months. So I'm willing to allow them to get to the final, but then it has to be really, really painful for them. Somehow VAR messes up, like it's not available, and a decision goes against them.
Oh no, I don't want that. I don't want that. I don't want them to have, like, if that horrible situation occurs, I don't want them to have any kind of like, well, you know, if VAR had been doing its job properly, you know, we would actually be the Champions League holders or whatever. You know, I don't want them to get to that final, but if they do, I want them to get beaten about 8-0. You know, I was thinking, like, what would I bear? What would I endure to prevent them from winning the Champions League? And I have to tell you, it's a lot. It's a lot. Wow. Arsenal finished 6th. Okay. Arsenal finished trophyless. Okay. Lose the Europa League final to make sure. Okay. I think I would hate that more than I would enjoy winning the Europa League. Is that small and petty and awful? But I can't help how I feel.
It's the timeline of it all, really, that kind of gets to me, because, you know, this is ridiculous, debating hypothetical situations, but if Spurs went out in the semi-final, there's still a fairly good chance that we could be in the final, and then we'd have to go through a whole load of pain. So do I want them to get to the final and then suffer more? I don't know. I just don't know. Obviously I don't want them to win. I can basically turn a blind eye to Liverpool winning it, because I've lived through Liverpool winning European trophies before. It's fine. Like, you know, we'll get over it again. I'm glad that City can't win the quadruple. I kind of hope, I know you don't agree with me on this, but I hope City beat Liverpool to the league title. But Spurs winning anything, I don't know. I mean, it's horrible, isn't it? I don't think I'd ever want to go to Madrid ever again, which is where the final is being held. It would be so polluted. Yeah, no,
this is awful. Let's talk about something else, because even the idea of it is making me feel a little bit queasy. Rajko, no, it's not Rajko. Sorry, Rajko, who says, would you rather have the away or home leg first? I don't care, but we're away second, so there we go. Love Genberg says, is the red shirt and shorts combination the worst kit we've ever played in? While Mamos, the Norwegian gooner, says, I know you shouldn't fuck with history, but honestly, how nice do all those all red kits look? Your thoughts about changing our shorts to red permanently? There you go. The range of opinion among football fans. It's the worst ever, or he wants to change 100 years of history, or however long it's been since we started playing in white shorts.
In my opinion, the worst kit we've ever played in is the one that we lost to Bradford in, that ridiculous purple hooped and black hoop shirt. It just didn't make sense to me, that shirt. The current third kit,
I think that's the worst one.
Toothpaste kit is fucking shit as well. That can fuck off and burn. The red shorts, admittedly, they look relatively smart, but that's like a one-off occasion. Like, you don't wear black tie every day, right? It's nice once in a while, but you save it for the odd occasion.
Well, you do if you're that guy from Third Rock from the Sun, not Third Rock from the Sun, 30 Rock, Alec Baldwin. Liz Lemon comes into the office and he's standing there in a tuxedo, and she goes, why are you in a tuxedo? He goes, it's 6 o'clock, Lemon. What am I, a farmer? But yeah, no, I do take your point. I have to say it's kind of all right, but it's just a little bit too Liverpool-y or something.
It doesn't quite look right. There's a novelty value to it, and I'm fine with that, but like, not ongoing. Thank you very much.
Haven't we worn some weird ones in the past? Do you remember, did we play a game in the Champions League at Wembley where we wore, maybe it was at Highbury, I can't remember.
We wore the blue shirt with
white
shorts.
Yeah, white shorts, yeah.
We wore blue shorts with a red shirt away at, was it Fenerbahce, I believe?
It was a Turkish, I think it was
a Turkish game that we played, and we wore some weird combinations. We always used to wear the the weird yellow shorts with yellow shirts, which made us look like ridiculous bananas.
We wore them in Barcelona once, did we? Or no?
No, we wore white shorts with a yellow shirt when we drew 1-1 there. That was the Suka goal, I think it was.
Or Canu scored the goal, yeah.
Canu scored the goal, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we have worn some weird combinations. But, I mean, obviously that combination, what the hell were UEFA thinking when Spurs wore their kit against City? Like, it was ridiculous, the clash there.
Absolutely. I was looking at it and I thought, surely the white shirts and they could wear some other kind of shorts would be far better instead of this weird thing. But yeah,
whatever.
Okay, so we've got no consensus here on these shorts. Just, stick with tradition as much as possible. And, we welcome Adidas, our new kit-making overlords from next season. And there's talk of the bruised banana away kit and, 3 stripes on the home kit, red and white, very nice. The third kit that we wear, the one we wore at, did we wear that at Watford the other night? It's just so horrible,
I mean, it has no redeeming features at all. The colour's shit. The design is just a bit rubbish.
They probably said that in the Puma offices. This is a bit but why would we waste a good idea?
Well, I'll deal with them soon, so just give him shit.
Yeah, give him anything. Give him that one. It's a bit Okay, Mark T. Drynan, books with no words. Successful short corners by Arsenal. Really starting to annoy me. So predictable. Why?
I mean, there must be something around trying to drag players out of the box. I don't know. I mean, I do wonder whether this is one of those things that all football fans think their team take the worst corners. I don't think we're the worst at it, but it is weirdly annoying when you send defenders up and commit numbers to a situation, and then the 2 players who faff around with it by the corner flag don't get the ball in the box.
Do you know who really, really gets annoyed at that?
Tell me.
The defenders. I can tell you
70 yards back to goal. Is this something that happens in your Sunday League team?
Well, yeah, it has done in the past. There is nothing worse than making your way all the way up the pitch for them to either take a shit corner or a terrible short corner, and you're going, I came all the way up here. I ran all the way, and I have to get all the way back. You fuckers! Without even giving me a chance. I'm telling you. Maybe we should get Socrates to sort them out. Druva says, with recent rumours linking Koulibaly to Arsenal and having watched him play against us in both legs, are you impressed with him? If we sign him, do you think he will have a Van Dijk-esque effect at Arsenal?
1, I don't think we'll sign him. 2, I haven't really been impressed with him at all, actually, over these 2 games. I mean, I'm sure he's been doing stuff in Serie A, but I watched him in the first leg a bit more close than I did tonight. It's always kind of hard when you're doing the match report to kind of really focus in on specific players. But in the first leg, there were 3 or 4 occasions where he just hacked the ball away without really kind of having any sense of where his goalkeeper was. And I was kind of like, this guy doesn't seem to have the kind of calming effect that, like, when you look at Van Dijk and everyone just goes, oh yeah, fuck it, Van Dijk will sort it out, he'll take it down and do 500 kick-ups and then play a 30-yard ball on the volley to some great player on the wing or something. Koulibaly looks much more like, I'm just going to get the fucking ball out. I mean, he's obviously, like, he's a unit. He looks physically imposing and he looks like you want a centre-back to look, but I haven't necessarily seen anything. He's got £150 million buyout clause or something.
150 million, like, come on.
Or maybe it's euros, but I mean, either way, I mean, like, you're not going to spend that on that. That's 5 times our budget anyway. Yeah.
I haven't been as impressed as I thought I was going to be, but that was true of Napoli in general.
Yeah, true.
He did have a very good part to play in that break that they made in the first half, which Czech, I think, saved when the guy actually got a shot on target. Was it Callejon who got the shot on target, who spent the rest of the game just crossing the ball out of play or shooting wildly out of the stadium? Yeah. Were you a bit surprised about the emptiness of the stadium?
I mean, I saw people posting pictures. I mean, the stadium really looks like a shithole for a start. I mean, like, I know that we're very lucky with what we've got, and it's all very kind of glossy and whatnot. But I wonder whether their fans all just go and squeeze up into some other sections because obviously that lower tier looks like the view must be pretty bad. It's the same as West Ham. You've got an athletics track all the way around it. And I don't think they're particularly precious about making people sit in the specific seats when they show their tickets. So I think they probably just squeeze up into wherever else. I didn't see what the official attendance was tonight, but yeah, I mean, it looks a bit weird on TV, doesn't it? You think, oh, cauldron atmosphere, you can hear it all, but actually the first 15 rows all the way around are empty. It does look a bit odd.
Yeah, it was a bit strange. I don't know what the attendance was. Did they do that anymore in match reports? Let me have a look here. I'm just looking at the BBC. No, it doesn't say. There's
usually someone on Twitter.
Yeah, who will know. Attendance watch.
Yeah, that's what I'm sort of typing in now.
J_Takezo. Please just do a voiceover of what you think Socrates, master of the dark arts, was saying to Koulibaly when he had his face in his hands. What was he saying? You're beautiful, man. You're a very beautiful man. Don't worry, it's an accident. He stepped on your face by accident. Don't worry. This is the worst Socrates impression anybody's ever made. Come back with me after game. I show you how Greek love works. It's great.
I speculated that he was speaking Italian, given that he'd been in Italy for a few years, Socrates, so he would have been able to. But thinking about it, it probably wasn't. But he definitely was doing the kind of Italian pinchy finger thing. But I think maybe Socrates just does that anyway. He kind of likes that emotional, hey, what's the matter with you kind of thing. That was terrible.
That was really terrible.
So I've already offended Italians this evening on Twitter.
Have you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Some bloke called me out saying I shouldn't say rude things about Italians. I thought it was quite witty what I said, but...
Okay. Well, you've got to listen to people when they give you the feedback. I'm sure it's meant with the best of intentions, I'm sure. KT Football, a couple more before we go. KT Football, where does this Koscielny season rank in his career at Arsenal? His resurrection this season has been nothing short of astonishing. And here we are at Easter talking about the resurrection of Koscielny. For his is the kingdom, the glory and the light forever and ever. Amen. Anyway, KT Football goes on to say, I can't help but feel he's playing at as high a level as he ever has for us.
I mean, it's hard to. I mean, it's hard to disagree. I mean, the level that he's come back to. I mean, when we watched that documentary about his recovery and everything, and a couple of the guys in the medical team said we wouldn't be surprised if he came back to the level he was at and more. I think because he actually, by having the surgery, fully solved the problem which had been bugging him for so much at the tail end of last season, and actually probably for the season and a bit before. This issue that he was nursing. It was obviously playing on his mind, whereas now he can just play freely. And obviously he seems to have kind of come out the other side of this injury with a slightly more rounded person, sort of able to kind of... He looks like a calmer person, more of a leader. I mean, he was always quite stern on the pitch and didn't really say much, but he looks like he's kind of even more of an inspirational figure for people these days than he was before, that's for sure.
Yeah, one of the things I've noticed is his... I guess he's had to modify his game a little bit because he was always a very aggressive defender, liked to play in the front foot, liked to get in there and nick the ball. And I think he's come to the realization that, even just being 33, he can't play that way anymore. His reading of the game now is superb. His positional play, he's in the right place most of the time for headers. It's fantastic to see the way he's been able to adapt, because I do think there have got to have been some physical side effects, when you have that kind of a traumatic injury at the age he had it. And, it was less than a year ago when it happened. So, I think his ability and his intelligence and the way he's adapted to having to play in a different way. Plus, I just guess his endurance and his robustness and his physical capability to play the games that we need him to play during this hectic period has been fantastic. It's kind of why I think he's got to sit out the game on Sunday, because we've got to give him a rest. Yeah.
I mean, given that he said that he was, close to leaving last season under Arsene Wenger, or when Arsene went, and he's got one more year on his contract, what do you do? Just let him see out next season and then leave on his own terms? Or
Yeah. I think so. You know, when you think or when you look around at what's out there from a central defensive point of view, I think having him in the squad is beneficial. And if we've got young, talented central defenders who still could do with some education and some guidance, you know, I include Rob Holding in that, but also Mavropanos, who's somebody who needs to develop and needs to learn. You know, to have a great educator at the club is a very good thing. So yeah, I would keep him. I mean, what do you get in turn for a transfer fee for Koscielny, unless like he gets an amazing offer and he wants badly to go home back to France and play one more season, and we feel like we want to do the right thing by him. You know, financially, it doesn't make any sense for us to take whatever, £1 million or £2 million.
No, I mean, if it was me, I'd probably even give him another year. But I get the feeling that he might want to do something else before he leaves Arsenal. But at the same time, I feel like maybe that he would have given off that vibe this season, because he'd be kind of winding down to a potential departure. And when you're club captain, you kind of feel like you'd kind of make a big deal of that. But yeah, I don't know. I've just been very impressed by him. I think just as a man, he's just such a quiet and diligent leader. Like, he seems like, and he loves accordions as well.
He does love accordions. I'm not a fan of accordions.
Really?
No.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. Well, look, when you live in Barcelona and you take the metro in Barcelona, and every time you take the metro, there's some fucking guy doing the accordion and singing that Bésame Mucho song. It's like, oh no, I can't deal with fucking any more accordions. Also, when you sit down outside at a bar or a cafe, some fuckers with an accordion, they always come up as well. So I'm quite accordion averse.
Okay.
But you know, I respect the fact that he gave a load of his own money to save an accordion factory in his hometown, whatever it was.
Yeah.
You know, the commitment to his accordion love is something I can respect, even if I don't necessarily dig the instrument itself. Okay, one final question here, and this comes from Brian Regan 09, who says, how much of this tie or result is down to Unai Emery's past experience in this competition? The management of the tie was fantastic. I feel like if this was Wenger's Arsenal, we may not have made it through. A lot of people were saying Napoli were poor, but I'd argue we frustrated them and made them look poor. And I think there's an element of truth to that.
Yeah, I mean, I it's hard to say. Like, I mean, I'd rather not make comparisons at this point directly with Arsene, because obviously what Arsene did over his time was, you know, he had a little bit of everything over 22 years. You know, we made it to a European final. We also went out in ridiculous games and played very badly in some games away from home. What I would say is just that I really like that Emery seems to be quite calm and quite defined and decisive about what it is that he wants to do. And he seems to have a plan, or at least he's giving off that air. And you know, at this point, it feels like the players are buying into that. And, you know, right from the off at the beginning of the season, when we were told that the players are being made to train harder and become more robust and there was going to be a work ethic, I kind of feel like we're seeing that work ethic still coming through. And the fact that it's still coming through at this point of the season is really, really important.
Okay. I think that's fair enough. You know, he does have a track record in this competition. He does know how to win knockout games.
Yeah.
He has managed more Europa League games than anybody else in history. Whether that's something that reflects on him as a manager, it's kind of hard to say, because, you know, he's still in the relatively early stages of a managerial career, isn't he? He's not that old, Unai Emery.
He's 48, 49.
Right, okay. So he's still got a good few years to go. So, yeah, look, he knows what he's doing in this competition. That's for sure.
I mean, I thought I managed to catch some of Ancelotti's post-match comments, and he was very impressed by Arsenal, I think. I mean, he was disappointed by his own team, and particularly by the way they played in the first leg. But,
yeah,
you know, that's a man who kind of, he knows his football, and he seemed to be speaking pretty earnestly about, you know, what he saw about Arsenal.
Yeah, he knows how to do it, doesn't he, in the
Champions League.
That's for sure. Okay, well, look, we will leave it there for now, and thank you very much for staying up so late to have the chats with me about the game against Napoli and all the other stuff. You can find Andrew on Twitter at @AllenSport, and also, of course, over on Arseblog News, doing all the stuff that he does there, which is painting his nails. I saw that emoji. Voting for other websites in the FBA awards. I noticed that as well.
Getting the scoreline wrong on the match reports.
Oh my goodness, ever the professional. But look, I appreciate the time. We'll catch you soon.
Catch you later.
Thank you very much indeed to Andrew. Also, I should point out, for health and safety reasons, that if you do encounter a fire, do not do what David Bowie did and put the fire out with gasoline. It does absolutely nothing to extinguish a fire. In fact, it exacerbates the fire. It makes it worse. David Bowie, what were you thinking, you crazy guy? Right, look, I think I'm going to leave it there for this morning because I'm anxious to get this podcast out and give everybody something to listen to. We do have a game against Crystal Palace on Sunday, of course. I think there are going to be changes. We talked about that a little in the podcast, but we can touch on that on the blog over the weekend. You can read it, of course, at arseblog.com. Keep up with all the latest news at arseblog.news, all the team news and injury news and everything else. And, of course, if you want to support what we're doing, as well as getting lots more content, lots of podcasts, and the Arsecast ad-free, which you can get now by being an Arseblog member on Patreon, patreon.com/Arseblog, a $5 a month, and you get access to all that stuff. We will have an Arsecast Extra on Monday, myself and James, hopefully looking back on a win over Crystal Palace on Sunday. Let's keep fingers crossed for that. In the meantime, what other way is there to end the show but with a classic from the 80s with a vaguely fire-related theme? I'll leave you with this particular earworm. Until the next one, take it easy. Cheers. Bye-bye. Just